When you think of somebody with a disability, do you think of their limitations or do you think of their possibilities? Are your expectations of them lower than non-disabled persons? Do you think that they need special attention or do you think they need the same opportunities to flourish as the non-disabled? Do you think of people with a disability who are achieving their life goals as exceptional and inspirational, or do you see them simply using their body and mind to the best of their ability, just like the rest of us? Our perceptions of disabilities are varied and complex and often conflicted. Those perceptions will be the background as we talk with a Paralympic athlete about his accomplishments on today's episode of A Public Health Journal. Please stay tuned.
Welcome to A Public Health Journal, a program that explores public health issues facing our society today and tomorrow. The host of the show is Dr. Ed Ellinger, Commissioner of Health for the state of Minnesota. A Public Health Journal is sponsored by the Minnesota Department of Health and the Hennepin County Human Services and Public Health Department, all working together towards the goal of healthy people living in healthy communities.
Wheelchair rugby was invented in 1977 by a group of Canadian quadriplegic athletes who were looking for an alternative to wheelchair basketball that allow players with reduced arm and hand function to participate on equal terms. The sport they created, which incorporates some elements of basketball, handball, and ice hockey, has since grown into a thrilling and intense spectacle and is enormously popular with spectators around the world. Today we're going to talk about wheelchair rugby, the Paralympics, and our changing perception about people with disabilities with a Paralympic athlete. Joining me is Chuck Aoki, a bronze medal winning U.S. Paralympian who plays currently for the U.S. Wheelchair Rugby, the #1 rated team in the world. He is from Minneapolis and is currently attending Metropolitan State University, pursuing a degree in education. Chuck, thank you for being with us today.
Thanks for having me on, Commissioner. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, this is a little different conversation because we're going to be talking about an individual sport in talking about public health, but it's really about people with disabilities.
Absolutely.
Who can't do things exactly the way everybody would like people to do things, but yet still be successful. So let's first start talking about Paralympics.
Sure.
You know, what are the Paralympics and how do they get started?
Sure. Well, the Paralympics, if you just want to break it down simply, is the para, means parallel to, and then, of course, Olympics, they kind of chopped off part of the Olympics, but it just means parallel to the Olympics. So effectively, the Paralympics are just the second largest sporting event in the entire world that's for people with physical disabilities. So that can range from, use of a wheelchair as an amputee, blind athletes. There are athletes with cerebral palsy who walk. It's a whole range of disabilities, and so it's a sporting event basically for everybody with different. So there's wheelchair basketball, wheelchair tennis, a sport called goalball for the blind people, which is played 3-on-3, and they have their blindfolds on. They whip a ball at each other, so they throw into a net. They have blind sprinting, amputee track and field, wheelchair track and field. So it's basically just the same thing as the Olympics. It just everybody has some sort of disability.
And it's international?
Yeah, it's totally international. I believe in London, the most recent games, summer games, the London games, there were well over 100 countries that participated. And it was the largest amount of countries that had ever participated before in the Paralympics, which is pretty amazing to see.
And so what's the number of sports that are included in this?
Off the top of my head, I believe there are 20-some different sports. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, but what makes the Paralympics unique is, there's the 100-meter dash, for example, in the Olympics, which is just the 100 fastest, they're the 10 fastest people line up and race. But in the Paralympics, because you have so many different disabilities, they divide you up by classification. So that way, somebody who's missing a leg isn't running against a person in a wheelchair, because otherwise that wouldn't, for a long distance it would be unfair to the person running, but a sprinter distance it's not going to be fair to the person. So what they do is they split you up by disability. So single amputees run against other single amputees, double amputees run against other double amputees, people in wheelchairs based on their level of function race against each other. So you actually have 6 or 7 different 100-meter dashes contested within one Paralympic Games, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So tell me about the sport that you're involved in.
Sure. So I play a sport called wheelchair rugby. When it was originally invented in Canada, they actually called it murder ball, but that didn't play as well with sponsors. And when they tried to get into the Paralympics, they're like, well, we're not letting in a sport called murder ball. So they changed it to wheelchair rugby to kind of reflect the hard-hitting nature of it. And it's the only completely full contact wheelchair sport that exists.
All right. So we've got a little video clip here that kind of shows this thing. And
excellent.
And so when we'll kind of roll this tape, and
Sure.
we'll come back and talk about it, and you can talk about some of the unique characteristics of this. So
Excellent.
let's
Sounds
go to
good.
this video clip. Welcome back. I don't know about you, but that was pretty intense. Chuck, that is an intense sport. My first question is, why don't you use helmets?
That's the question we get asked a lot, you know, and the answer I'll give you, it's a little morbid, but it's the truth, is a lot of the guys are spinal cord injuries who play, so they've broken their neck in some way, shape, or form, and so the response is, well, I already broke my neck. What's the worst that can happen to me if I play rugby? So, you know, I don't have a good answer as to why we don't wear helmets. Maybe it's a macho type thing. Maybe it's we don't need helmets. But what's actually interesting is you watch those hits a lot. The chair takes the majority of the impact, if you notice. So that your body isn't actually getting hit. You know, it's not like you're getting punched or tackled to a ground quite the same way you would in football or able-bodied rugby. And then one of the first things we actually teach anybody who plays is, well, if you ever fall, tuck your head in. So pretty much everybody learns as they're first even getting into a wheelchair. It's like if you feel yourself going back, tuck your head in. So it's kind of
that would be the place that I would see. You know. So how often do people get tipped over, and can they get up by themselves?
Tip overs happen. Kind of depends on the speed of the game. At that level, the Paralympic level, it's going to happen. You know, 5, 6, 7, 10 times a game. It's going to happen a lot. At the kind of lower, you know, we have lots of different levels of competition. Lower level might not happen as much, but it's the speed of the game picks up. The hits and the crashes fall over. And then you're actually not allowed to pit right yourself. The majority of players can't sort of get themselves back up. So what they do is we have support staff that come out, they have to pick you up, and then if you're into play, they'll stop play right away. If you fall over, you know, way back at the other end of the court, they'll just leave you there until the play stops, then the referee will blow the whistle and let them come get you.
So how did you get engaged with wheelchair rugby?
Yeah, well, I played wheelchair basketball growing up. When I was about 7 years old, I started playing that at what's now called Courage Kennedy Rehabilitation Institute, formerly called Courage Center. And I played wheelchair basketball there, and I liked basketball a lot growing up. And then when I was 15, I saw a movie called Murder Ball. It was a documentary made about the 2004 Paralympic team, and I kind of saw it, and my eyes lit up. I was like, "Oh, this is the sport. You know, I want to play this sport." You know, and so I had, because of my disability, I had lost some use of my hands, and I used a wheelchair. So I was like, "Well, I can play this sport." So I showed up to a practice one day at Courage Kenny, and I was like, I got in a chair, I got hit for the first time. I was like, oh yeah, I love this. This is what I want to do. So I was hooked by the adrenaline.
Yeah, and your disability was from birth, right?
Yes, I have a very rare genetic condition called hereditary sensory autonomic neuropathy type 2. I can pause and let everybody Google that while I wait. But so I basically just don't feel anything below my elbows and below my knees. And so as a result of that, when I was 6, I broke my femur, walked on it, and you know, that's not good. You know, you're the commissioner of health. You probably know that's not a good thing to do. And so I would go back and forth between using a wheelchair, walking, hurting something, back to a wheelchair. And that cycle continued until I was about 10 or so. And then they're like, you know what? Too much damage. Start using a wheelchair. Okay, started using a wheelchair. Started hurting my hands, losing parts of my fingers. And they said, okay, well, you know, you're not going back to walking, so time to figure it out. So I started doing a lot more preventative care for myself. But yeah, that's basically how I got to where I am.
And how was it being in the Olympics? What did it feel like to be in the Olympics?
It's a feeling unlike anything else in the entire world. You know, the Paralympics in London were incredible. The amount of support we got that London generated for the Paralympics was amazing. You know, we showed up in London, you know, landed on our plane, and one of the first billboards we saw was, you know, thanks for the warm-up Olympics, but now the real show starts. You know, and they really fully embraced us. You know, we were on, all our games were on TV every day. You know, we got interviewed by late-night talk shows. We went on a late-night talk show. You know, our first game, I'll never forget, I was waiting in, you know, they have a tunnel you wait in. You're side by side with the other team. We played Great Britain, actually, the first game in Great Britain, of course, and they love rugby there. It's a huge sport. You know, the walls were literally shaking, the amount of noise that was going on, just pounding and pounding. And we rolled out on the court. It was deafening, you know, and if you've never experienced truly deafening noise, it's hard to explain, but you can't hear yourself think. You can't hear my coach is over there going, it looks like this. He's like, and I'm just like, can't hear you, you know, sorry. So it's a pretty special feeling.
Good.
So.
Well, I know you brought your bronze medal.
Yes, I did.
Let's take a look at that.
Absolutely. Pop this open, and I'm not sure I should show this.
Yeah, there you go.
So I don't know.
Yeah, so you guys won bronze medal. Just hold it there steady, and we'll get a picture on that.
Yep.
And so the ceremony and everything, just like the regular Olympics?
Yeah, just like the regular, you know, they line you up there. You actually, what's unfortunate if you take bronze, which is disappointing, is you have to wait and watch the final game, which is kind of a unfortunate thing to do, especially if you just lost the semifinal day before. But yeah, so it's just the same thing. There's thousands of people there cheering for you, and it's a pretty special feeling to get a Paralympic medal put around your neck.
Yeah, good.
So.
Well, we have another little video clip which shows some of the other sports, because I think rugby certainly had a lot of attention.
Yep.
But let's take a look at some of the other sports.
Absolutely.
So let's take a look at this video.
It will change our perception of the world.
That's an amazing shot!
And we are about to see the greatest Paralympian ever. And is this going to be the moment when he gets gold? Oscar Pistorius absolutely storming away. Oscar Pistorius, he's been caught, is he? Oh my goodness.
It was so tough. I saw her on the last 100 and I was like, I'm gonna have to put my head down. I just went out there and gave it my all.
My best moment was putting that gold medal around the neck of Eddie Simmons.
It's just immense. Inside sometimes we feel it's gonna go right. You feel it, that everything is falling in place.
We will never think of sport the same way, and we will never think of disability the same way.
This has made London 2012 the greatest Paralympic Games ever.
Welcome back. We're talking about disabilities and the Paralympics with Chuck Aoki, a Paralympic athlete. Chuck, that's fairly impressive in a way from somebody who I've got use of all my appendages and I can see and hear. To see that, it's really inspirational to see it. You've got certain disabilities, but as you watch that, what kind of goes through your mind when you see people who are blind and people who are missing limbs? And
I'm amazed still by people who the amount of things people were able to do. Obviously I use the wheelchair, so I take my sight into account a lot because I lack the sensation of touch. So for me, it's like I watch these sprinters who are blind who are able to run 100 meters with their guide runner with them. And I'm just like, wow, I'm amazed by that. I can't believe they can do that. I watch a swimmer who has pretty much no arms who does the backstroke and just beats everybody. And I'm amazed by that. It's kind of funny. People say, well, you're amazed by people. It's like, yeah, that's incredible. I couldn't imagine being in those situations doing what they do. So it's pretty moving to see. It's very interesting.
Yeah. Now, we don't hear much about the Paralympics in the United States. We hear a lot about the Special Olympics. Yeah. First of all, what's the difference between Special Olympics and Paralympics?
Yeah, sure. So the Special Olympics are held every year. And they're for people who have some sort of mental disability or some sort of, typically people like with Down syndrome or, probably severe Asperger's type syndrome, some sort of developmental disability typically. And it's held every year. And there are competitions, but it's not sort of the same high stakes, I would say. Paralympics is the most elite sporting event in the entire world for people with disabilities. We really say it's Olympics, Paralympics. For us as Paralympians, there's no difference other than the name, and it takes place a couple weeks after. Besides that, there's no difference. The Special Olympics, like I said, are every year. It's much more of an inclusive mentality, and that's not to say Paralympics are exclusive, but you have to qualify. You need to be one of the best in the world at what you do to make this Paralympics, and it's held, of course, every 4 years, so every 2 years, I guess, the winter and summer. But so it's very different. The Special Olympics is an amazing organization. They do a lot of great work for people with mental, difficulties, but the Paralympics is just a different thing. It's competitive. It's an intense sporting event.
Yeah. So what's the infrastructure that supports Paralympians in the United States? Since we don't hear a lot about it, for the regular Olympics, you got training camps and you got funders and sponsors. And how about Paralympics?
We have all that to a certain extent. It's just I would say much less so. We're under the USOC, United States Olympic Committee, has a division called U.S. Paralympics, and U.S. Paralympics oversees all Paralympic sports essentially. So wheelchair rugby, we fall into that. So we do have training camps throughout the summertime, as a team, and then we'll go to competitions together. But when we've actually just engaged in a partnership with USA Rugby, the able-bodied program, so that as wheelchair rugby, we're working with USA Rugby. But so we're basically backed by the same people who back the Olympic Committee. Of course, the visibility is much higher on Olympics. So, I'm not blaming anybody for saying the funding and the resources are better driven towards there, but it's just kind of a fact of the matter, as the fact is, the Olympics have the highest ratings on TV. We aren't even on NBC yet, so.
All right, so in Minnesota, what kind of support do you have here? You talked a little bit about Courage Kenny.
Yeah.
Are there other places that support Paralympians?
There are what are called Paralympic sport clubs, and they're throughout the United States, and those are organizations that are designed to develop Paralympians and support them. And so Courage Kenny is the organization I work with primarily in Minnesota. There aren't a lot more that I know of because I've worked so closely with Courage Kenny for a very long time. It's kind of, they're the ones I work with, and they're located in Golden Valley. And so I practice on a club team there. I train with them there. I'll do speaking engagements for them, and I do a lot of work with them to try to help grow Paralympics in Minnesota.
So what has Paralympics done for you personally?
It's meant the world to me. I like to say that, when I was growing up, I had a lot of tough times, with using the wheelchair and not missing people's stuff because I'd be in the hospital, and so I cried a lot, really upset. But when I made the Paralympic team for London, for the first time in my life, I cried tears of joy because it was just that exciting. I was like, wow, all that stuff I went through is kind of worth it to make it to this next level, So it's an amazing feeling to be a Paralympian. You can call yourself, one of the best in the world at what you do, which is just it's a special feeling. And then being in the Paralympics, living in the village, being watched by thousands of people, it's a pretty special feeling.
So Paralympics has done a lot for you. What do you think Paralympics has done for people with disabilities?
I think it's empowered people across the world. It really has. I look at, specifically the United States, obviously I have more experience here than Paralympics in China or something. But, it gives us role models. If I can go back to Courage Kenny, the place I play at, and I can see some 5, 6-year-olds play wheelchair basketball, who are in wheelchairs. We don't have a ton of role models. People with disabilities, there aren't really any disabled movie stars out there. There aren't very many musicians who are disabled. There aren't even many sports figures you can see. But if I can, at least on that local level, be that role model, that's what I hope. That's what I hope Paralympics can give to people, with disabilities across the world.
Given the fact that Paralympics are a bigger deal in other countries. Does that say something about our perception of people with disabilities in the United States?
You know, I think it does to a certain extent. I think the United States is really ahead in the American Disabilities Act of 1991. That's really unique across the world. There aren't a lot of countries that have, you know, legally it says you have to mandate, you have to say this must be accessible, you know, if it wasn't after a certain date, and I think it's sometime in the 1950s, if it was built after that, you have to make it accessible, you know, end of story. And so I think we've done a very good job of doing that, but I think what that created was a situation in which, you know, accommodating someone with a disability became seen as an obligation, as a, you have to do this, rather than a, you know, I'm not sure, other than more just an altruistic, this is just a person who has a different challenge, let's just help them out, you know, if that makes sense. So like in London, they had a lot of, you know, it's an older city, there's a lot of, you know, it's kind of tougher to get around, but people were more than willing to go out of their way to help you, or, you know, can I help you with this, can I help you with that, and you know, they treat us like athletes. You know, when we'd ride the subway in London, they'd say, you know, kids would come up to us and they wouldn't be like, oh, why are you in a wheelchair? It's like, oh, are you guys athletes? Like, oh yeah, I play wheelchair rugby. Oh my God, we want to go to wheelchair rugby. It was sold out, you know, and it was just this being treated like the athlete you were, as opposed to just another person with a disability who needed another accommodation, who needed help. And that's not to say to fault anyone, but it's just kind of I think what we've developed in the U.S., unfortunately.
So, you know, accommodations, all of us, I mean, if I lost my glasses, I would,
Yeah.
I would be disabled.
Yeah.
So, you know, do you see things that as you work, you know, and in your regular life going to school, the accommodations that we make that should just be there for everybody, that would benefit everybody, and people, particularly as we get an older population, we're going to have more and more people with needs. Are there things that you see that you're learning about with the special disability that you have that could really help us to actually change our society, change some of the policies, change some of the environment, to make it easier for people of all abilities to be able to, you know, take advantage of whatever gifts that they have?
Sure. You know, I think that's a good question. It's hard to think of something specifically. The one thing I was pointed out to by is the president of the International Paralympic Committee, actually, Sir Philip Craven. I write a blog for them, and there's the UN has written a convention on persons with disabilities, but it really extends to all persons. It's just essentially, it's a creed saying, let's treat everybody the same, you know, let's treat everybody equally. It's been ratified by governments across the world, but not the United States government, you know, and it's really too bad, because we have ADA, which kind of covers the sort of legal side of things, you know, that sort of says, let's, you know, it has the legal side of it, but the convention is more of a, just a sort of a, let's treat everybody the same, you know, let's build this sort of sense of, it's not an obligation, but we want to help people with disabilities. Let's treat everybody equally. Let's give them the same support. And so I think something like that would be really important to have in the United States, is to just sort of change the general mindset away from, you know, obligation. Oh, we have to help this person. It's a burden to help it. You know, people with disabilities, especially I think our aging population, tends to get seen as a burden. You know, it's like, oh, these are people we have to help. You know, we have an obligation to help these people. It's like, no. You know, as a developed 21st century society, why wouldn't we want to help people who just need a little extra help? So I think that's kind of what I would see.
All right. In the last minute or so, how are you training for the next Olympics? I am assuming you're wanting to be in the next Paralympics?
Yeah, you know, bronze was a disappointment for us. We really want to get gold. So
because you are the #1 team in
we were, unfortunately. You know, we were, and we just got back from World Championships where we took third. So we've dropped down to third. So we have to battle our way back, unfortunately.
Okay. So how are you training?
You know, I took a couple weeks off, but now I'm back in the gym. I'm going to get back in the gym about 5 times a week, and it's nonstop. You know, it's lifting weights, it's sprinting up hills, it's going outside and doing ramps at the Mall of America if that's what I need to do. So it's intense. And
along with your studies, but I understand you're going to be graduating soon.
Yeah, yep. I have a semester left of courses at Metropolitan State University in St. Paul, and then I'll student teach in the spring somewhere, and then I'll graduate. I'll have a college degree.
Chuck, thank you. This has been really fun talking with
Absolutely.
you. And good luck on your education,
thank you.
In your teaching, and in your Paralympics.
Thank you so much.
I'll be back with a closing comment right after this message. Because disabled persons are seldom mentioned in songs, Cy Khan, a community organizer and songwriter, was asked to write a song for the International Year of Disabled Persons. His song, What You Do With What You Got, has become a classic. Here's one verse in the chorus. What's the use of two good legs if you only run away? What's the use of the finest voice if you've nothing good to say? What good is strength and muscle if you only push and shove? And what's the use of two good ears if you can't hear those you love? It's not just what you're born with, it's what you choose to bear. It's not how big your share is, it's how much you can share. It's not the fights you dreamed of, but those you really fought. It's not just what you're given, but what you do with what you've got. Our job in public health is to create the opportunities for everyone, able-bodied or not, to use whatever physical, mental, and emotional abilities they have in a way that maximizes their potential. The important thing is to do the best with what you've got. People with disabilities can teach us a lot in this area. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. I hope you can join us again next time on A Public Health Journal.